Hello, everybody. I am Nicki Aycox, an actress and a musician, and I also advocate for wellness and planet preservation.
Hello. That's what I was
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Happy to be here.
The first question is I watch some of the kids, in their plays, like any ways you could suggest, ways to calm down during stress and this.
Honestly, it doesn't even matter if you're an actor, but just in life in general, and specifically with stage fright and getting up and performing in front of people, it's going to happen. Or everybody has a certain level of adrenaline that hits them before they step out on stage. It's just a natural part of the process. And as you become more experienced, you learn how to cope with that sort of adrenaline that rushes through your body because you've felt it so many times before, and you know that nothing bad is going to come of it. You know you can still have a great performance, and sometimes that adrenaline even brings you a better performance. But you definitely have to teach yourself, and it takes practice, but you have to teach yourself to cope with that amount of energy and that amount of stress that's kind of pumping through your body before you perform or public speak or whatever, it's a job interview or whatever these nerves are stemming from. And really the best way to do it is such a simple thing, but it just seems to be the hardest thing for human beings to do. And that is to sit in one spot and just take all of your awareness and your focus to your breathing and just start counting your breaths, in, one, out. And as you do that, when you're breathing in, visualize yourself having fun up on stage. Visualize the audience having fun with you. Visualize yourself getting the lines correct. Visualize yourself having really fun, powerful moments. And so if you can sit down a good 10 to 15 minutes before you step out on that stage, take your awareness to your breathing and visualize yourself having a fantastic, fun performance, the chances of you actually having a fantastic, fun performance are really great because you've centered yourself for what you're about to do. The problem with I think it's a human reaction, but the problem is we have a hard time sitting and dealing with the things that bother us. We don't like to feel uncomfortable. So our natural reaction is, well, I'm going to go get on my social media, I'm going to answer these people back really quickly. Or, you know what, I have to go do this or something, get some, I probably just did it. I went and got some juice, but, we always come up with these other things to distract us from the one thing that we need to be doing because it's uncomfortable to sit and feel that stress and that adrenaline. But if you can get yourself to sit and feel that adrenaline and realize that it's actually helpful to do that and it actually makes the process even more fun, if you can cope with that stress and face it head on without distracting yourself with a million different things, you're going to be more centered and focused, and you can pretty much trust it every time you'll have a great performance. I guess what I'm saying is don't avoid that adrenaline that's running through you. It's a part of the process, and it's an important part of the process. The way to beat it is to learn how to not be afraid of it. And the only way to do that is to sit and face it. 10 to 15 minutes sitting in one spot, breathing in, breathing out. And you don't have to sit down with any particular focus. You really just have to sit and start counting your breath. And the more you breathe, the calmer you become, and then you're able to start visualizing a good performance, and you can lift your mood, and all these things start to happen. So it's not like you have to sit down and do something specific. You just start counting your breaths, and it will happen on its own.
Where, with stage plays, when you go out, there's always going to be things that come up.
Well, it's interesting. You're right about that. Every performance, no matter if it's the same show or not, is going to be different. It's going to have something different and organic about it. And that's why being able to sit and focus for a period of time before you perform it is important, because what happens when you get very focused and centered on what you're about to do is it can change and jump and do all things, but you're prepared for it because you went in focused on it. And that's really what it is. I mean, that's just my biggest thing. I think with our younger generation nowadays, the social media, and I know you and I have talked about this over email some, but the social media is just, it's so distracting for them. And I think that it must be really difficult to feel good about a performance because they're already very public, It's like everything they do is public. So it's got to be a really intense amount of stage fright. And then before they get on stage or they perform, they've been on their social media, and then they go straight to performing, and they're just not focused on the task at hand,
Right. And that kind of brought me to the second question, and that's with when they're preparing for roles, like I said, because you have played so many different characters. Like one of the ones that's the most amazing to me, of course, is the Meg character.
Oh, thank you.
What are ways that you kind of get ready and prepare for the roles, the different roles?
Like to sort of embody the character and come up with what they want the character to be? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
I mean, there are so many different actors. There's no right way to do it. I don't personally think, as an artist, I think everybody has different techniques and different things they do that work for them specifically. For me, it's about, I like to read books, I mean, I know that when I did Meg Masters, I was reading a book by Mikhail Bulgakov, who is a Russian author, called The Master and the Margarita, which is a fantastic book, and it's all fantasy. It's very poetic, but I remember when I was reading that book, there were so many things that jumped out at me. The Margarita is sort of, well, actually, I don't want to give out in case somebody wants to read it. But anyway, let's just say this. The Margarita, it's called The Master and the Margarita, and the Margarita turns out to be a bad girl. And so when I was reading that book, I didn't really read it specifically to prepare for the character. I start reading books that are within the genre of what I'm going to play. And then if something sticks with me in the book, I stay with it. And a lot of times what will happen is a lot of those characteristics that I liked from the book will start getting in my mind and helping me kind of form what I want the character to be. So I guess what I'm saying is I like to reach out and listen to or read other material from different artists to help myself kind of come up with something. And usually it always works. There's some very talented, interesting artists out there, and I can find reference anywhere. But if I sit down and say to myself, how am I going to play this character? How will I play Meg Masters? My mind will be blank, because I don't think that I have, and maybe not so much anymore, but at the time I didn't have enough self-confidence to trust myself to come up with something. So I ended up using other artists' material to give myself ideas to help inspire me. And I just fully trusted these artists, that I like, these different authors or singers or different musicians, poets. Another one I always used was Leonard Cohen a lot. I really loved his poetry and his music as well, but I really just trusted artists that I had a lot of respect for, and I immersed myself in their work and allowed my ideas to form from what I was experiencing. And that never fails you, by the way. That will never fail you. But if you get into your own head and you don't have a lot of confidence, or you have a lot of nervous energy, or you tend to be a little neurotic like a lot of actors are, you can really block yourself from creating a good, solid character because you're only depending on your own mind, which at that time is limited. If you're feeling all these insecurities, that limits you. So you need to get out of your own head and let another artist inspire you.
I watched another film. I think I messaged you about it, Lifted, and that's such a far from Meg to the character. I forgot the character, but
I think it was Lisa. I can't remember now either.
Because that's such a difference.
Yeah.
You know, both powerful characters with powerful messages, and that's why I wonder how do you go from one character to the other without, you know, sometimes when people act, they tend to kind of have the same, like if someone asked me to act, I would probably use the same accent or the same, you understand? So like every character would sound exactly the same.
Well, it's kind of funny because nowadays it isn't so much like that anymore, where actors are really, even musicians are allowed to step out of their brand very much. I feel like kind of art has changed. You know, at that time it was trendy and popular for a TV actor to go and do independent films and then go back to TV and then go to, and a lot of times that would be done on purpose. You would, because you made your money, you know, working in television, and then you'd do an independent film and you'd make a little bit of money, but you really couldn't survive off of it. So the idea was you would do your television roles, and then when you went to do an independent film, you would choose something that was completely opposite, so that way you could show that you were a well-rounded actor. And I feel like it's a little disappointing to me. Nowadays, it's something that frustrates me, is I just don't see that happening as much, because I think with the internet, we've somewhere along the way, people have decided that we have to brand ourselves as one thing, and we can't really step out of that brand. But that doesn't make a lot of sense, because we all have, you know, different. We're not one-dimensional. We're human beings with flaws and things that are good about us and insecurities, and we have all these very opposite feelings and emotions we deal with, and to kind of be forced to only show one of them, you know, to the public seems a little bit, just a little bit unhealthy and limiting to our culture. Right. But so I think that's something I would like to see sort of evolve and change. I would like to see us as artists be able to go back and do multiple things that are very opposite, so that we can show ourselves and show that as an artist we're very well-rounded, you know.
Yeah, and that actually was what I was just, what you just mentioned was part of my the third question, which was, it's like going into the roles. Some people assume, okay, that's the way she is, instead of saying, okay, that's a character, and it's a separate person. What would you suggest that they do to separate from the role, or to, like, how did you separate from Meg Master? How did you separate from that person and go into your and being Nicki again?
I completely get you on that. It is not easy. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, straight up, it's not easy, and it's very frustrating, because on one hand, especially as an actor, you're forced kind of by studios to go into these auditions or to go into the role already having a large following, right? They want this nowadays. They want the performers to have a built-in fan base, because it costs them less money and publicity, and it makes their job easier if the performer already has their own fan base that will follow them and buy merchandise and all of these different things, which from a business standpoint, that absolutely makes sense. So you kind of get stuck with, I got stuck in a crossroads, which was, do I want to continue cultivating all of these relationships online as this actress who plays demon roles or, or whatever it is I had to sell to the public in order to get the followers to keep following. And so then I could take those followers to a studio and say, look, I've got 200,000 followers, whatever, I want this role. The problem with that is then I walk out in public and people have a hard time separating me. They might not think that I'm a demon, but they think that I have a bad attitude, or I'm a cold person, and so then I have to face my real life, kind of being prejudged by everybody I talk to because they've already looked at everything online and decided that I'm kind of this character. So it is a really difficult thing that we face nowadays, and this is new. It wasn't like that so much before the internet because, you would do a role and then you would publicize that role and then you would take a break and step away from it for a while, and then people would forget because things were in magazines and that magazine month was over or whatever. Nowadays, it's just always right there on the internet. So this is a relatively new issue, and I think that I've talked to a lot of other actors, working actors, who feel the same way. It's very frustrating because it's very hard to turn around and live your life the way you want to because people have already prejudged what kind of person you are based on what they've seen online. So when I say that it was hard for me, I'm being very open and honest about it. It's been about a 10-year process for me to become comfortable with just being myself online because I knew that it wasn't going to get me all the followers. I knew that I would have to change my lifestyle. I knew I'd have to make different choices because some of the other opportunities would no longer be available to me. And making that decision and going with it was a very scary thing to do because it meant for me to completely do a 180 in my life. And that's a very scary thing to do. And ultimately, in the end, I went back and forth, and I had some extremely difficult times trying to decide if I just wanted to say, okay, I'm just going to live my life the way I want to, and the way I want to live my life is to just be open and honest with everybody, whether it's in the public or whether it's online. I just want to be the person that I am and be okay with that, and be okay with the people who like me and that being enough, even if that number is lower. And I finally did. It finally happened. But, man, I had to change so many things. I changed where I lived. I changed how I dressed. I changed everything. And so my point is, it's just, I think you just have to decide you're going to do it, but you have to be okay with the things you're going to lose because you're doing it. And that's where, for everybody, it's difficult if that's what you want to do.
Right.
I feel for the younger generation because they really are in a position, if they want to be performers, they're in a position that they're forced to create this online character for themselves, and it does brand them, and it does make them prejudged, and doing that to teenagers and even younger, it's just not healthy for them. It's not mentally healthy for them. So this is something that I really think we need to learn how to improve as adults. We need to allow our younger generations to just have fun online, to not be focused on getting as many followers as they can so that they can become successful later in life. They really shouldn't be having these pressures, but unfortunately it's just the reality right now,
Right, yep, and it is, and that's with anybody and anything. Once you try to change and do positive, it's always going to be kind of a negative backlash. Yeah. I think it's kind of, to me, it's a good and bad with the internet. But okay, go ahead.
I wasn't trying to say that it's impossible to become successful as a performer without kind of creating this false identity online. It is 100% possible to become successful and become everything you want to be as a performer and being yourself online. But it does take you really becoming comfortable doing it. And it takes maybe a little bit longer. It isn't such an instant process. But you know what? Especially when you're younger, you have lots of time. So there's no sense of jumping into just something so quickly. And the more you experience, the better you get at it, and you can learn to cultivate it. So it's absolutely possible, and it's more comfortable. But you really have to also pay attention to your coping mechanisms, how you cope with people prejudging you, how you cope with people giving you negative backlash, all of these things. So you also have to take time to build your own confidence and be comfortable with yourself so that you can cope with those things in a healthy way. So it is possible. I don't want anyone thinking that I was saying that it isn't possible. It's just kind of a different way of doing things. And it might feel like it drags and it takes longer, and your followers don't build as fast, and that causes you to feel insecure. You just have to learn, okay, I'm being a little bit more real, and it's taking me longer to gain my followers, and that's okay because the followers will come. I don't need it right now. It's nothing personal to me,
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
It does. Go with it. And then, like I said, when you want to shift gears. It really is. Yeah. If you want to, I'll wipe whole pages out and start over.
I will
just because I can. Just because I can, and I can do that. And what I'm trying to say is, if the same way you're, whatever role you are, trust me, people are going to love you online, even if it's, the number doesn't matter, honestly, to me. If it's 4,000, if it's 100, if it's 2, if it's 12, you love doing what you do anyway, so do it for the 12. You get what I'm saying?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That people are going to give you flack, and people are going to not like you, and that's okay. You say, well, okay, then you don't really like what I'm doing. I get it. You can follow somebody else that you do like. I'm okay, and you don't have to apologize. You don't have to apologize to people because you've made a choice to be something that's true to yourself. If they're not happy with it or they're not comfortable, there are lots of people in the world. So both of you are better off going and being around people who do appreciate what you have, and really that is how you cope with it the best. I really believe, first of all, things are cyclical. So this is just where the internet has taken us to this point since it started in terms of being an artist. This is where we are now. But in a few years, and I can already see that it's changing, people are beginning to like more of people who are being real. They're just respond. We've been through a really tumultuous 4 years with the fighting and the violence, and it's just been a really incredibly stressful 4 years. No matter what side of the political scale you're on, it was stressful for everybody. And so I think we went through a period of time where there was so much misinformation, and so people feel like they can't trust what they see. And so I do think they're starting to gravitate more towards people that they can tell are being real. And that will eventually shift all the way to that direction, and that will be the more trendy thing that people respond to. And sometimes you just kind of got to get ready for what it's about to be, not just do what it is now, because that's going to be fleeting. Things will change. So, I think that you got to, I think now, the point is, I think now is the best time to start owning exactly who you are and making something powerful out of that. I think now is the time. I believe that, because I believe in another 5 to 10 years, that's what's going to be the trendy thing to be doing, Yeah. And sometimes you got to prepare.
I agree. And
that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree fully. And the last question that I had before I let you go is if you could leave the listeners with something like an encouraging word or message.
Wouldn't it be funny if I said, no, I have nothing encouraging? No, of course, I want, if anything, to take away from our conversation, I think if I can kind of pinpoint what it is that sort of embodies what we just talked about, and it goes for adults and it goes for, teenagers, and even goes for our younger 8 to 9-year-olds who are on YouTube all day long, Mm-hmm. It's really about learning to be yourself and be authentic to yourself. If you want to create a character online to garner a lot of followers, if you feel like that's what you want to do, then hey, go for it. We are all entitled to try things, and we're all entitled to change our minds later down the road. So don't be afraid to go for it, and go for it, and then be able to walk away from it and say, that's my character online, and this is the person that I am, and feel comfortable about that. If you're a person who would rather do it the other way, which is just be very honest from the beginning and always kind of show your true colors, then go for it. That's your right to do it, and feel comfortable and feel good. And the thing that you're going to need to learn is that you're going to have some backlash and some negativity and some judgment, and just learn how to be okay with it, because that stuff doesn't matter. Just keep going. And in terms for the adults on how to support, their kids as they go through this, really is a very simple thing, which is just do your best to be as open as possible and to support them through, anything. If they want to change, support that change. Let them try different things. They're kids, Let them, if they want to act one day and then they want to get on stage and play the guitar the next, or they want to give an activist speech, 2 weeks later, be open and support all of those. Let them try out different things to find out what they really connect with. And it has to be what they connect with. You can't decide what you want them to connect with and only push them towards that. You have to let them try different things and really pay attention and see what it is that makes them happy and makes them smile and laugh and enjoy life, and support that, because that's how they're going to become successful. So that beginning support when they're children is everything. And I think I see online, Willie, I see that you do that for your girls, and I admire that very much.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. It was so nice to talk to you. I haven't had a chance to hear your voice and just have a conversation with you, but you're very calming, and your energy feels great, and so I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it, and thanks for all of the support, towards us. I really appreciate it. Okay,
you're very welcome.
Keep
me posted.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.